I am okay now, Jungkook nodded and slowly left her hand. By the look on his face, Wine could say he is still not sure and it made her happy. I can manage, don't worry. Jungkook went outside feeling a little assured by her words, but for the rest of assurance he decided to stand beside the door after closing it. Leaning against the wall, hands crossed over his chest, he turned his head and his gaze directly fall on the moon. It always reminds him of her. Just like it shining brightly in between the darkness of night, she too always shines, even after being all alone. They both are just like stars and moon, are in the same sky but still apart from each other. But they look incomplete without each other, just like us. Washroom door opened and Wine came out. Holding the wall for support, she found Jungkook standing there, leaned against the wall, staring into the night sky with a soft smile on his face. Looking so comfortable and peaceful, admiring the night beauty. But who tells him this is nothing against him at least? That's what her heart says. Wine chuckled at her own thoughts, and this was enough to catch the lost boy's attention. For a few seconds, he kept admiring her soft smile until his heart urged to confess something. Never know you will look this good. Wine's head snapped in his direction. Her eyes traveled down and fall on his extended hand. She looked at him for confirmation before holding it. But what he did next increased her heartbeat. He comes closer to her and slipped his fingers in between hers and tightly intertwined both of their hands. Wine feels like her heart will leave its place and will jump out, piercing her body, while Jungkook's eyes were not leaving the sight of their both joined hands. The admiration in his eyes was obvious. He comes more closer to take a closer and clear look, unaware of about what he is doing and how his actions are impacting the girl he is holding. It fit perfectly. Their heart was beating loudly in happiness, while his words, which were inaudible, confessed the word wine. He called her as he lifted his eyes to look at her. She could feel his hesitation, so without thinking twice, her another free hand slipped around his neck, while his another one held her tightly through her waist. The unfamiliar touch caused her to inhale sharply. Their both eyes met and they feel everything around them stopped. There is nothing, just them in each other's arms, eyes trying to read others' emotion. Can you please say fast? My foot is hurting now. Wine whispered and both of them chuckled together. Sorry to say, but you have to endure a few more minutes. His hands were shaking and she could feel it against her skin. This raised her curiosity. Jungkook inhaled a deep breath before he finally spoke up the words his heart was desiring to say from so long. Wine, I want both of us to always stay with each other, no matter what, because just like the stars need their moon, I need you in my life. He confessed, eyes full of genuineness and a hope to be accepted. Luckily, he didn't stutter, and for this, Jungkook mentally pats himself proudly. When the girl turned into a living statue, her heart was beating faster than a train and breathed abnormal. The emotions, which were buried deep inside her heart, are now coming out and making her throat burn and eyes strain. For a moment, she actually believed it's just a dream. But the gentle breeze of long summer nights caressing her face made her realize that it's not a dream. It's literally happening with her. The hold, his soft gaze, the closeness, the confession is not a dream. Every single thing is real, and this realization allows the painful tears to roll down. I always wanted both of us together, she said, as small sobs come out from her mouth, remembering those days where she wanted nothing but her husband. I know, but I'm asking for my confirmation. if he still wants me or not. I have a doubt on myself. Jungkook sat and didn't wipe her tears because he wants to how deeply he hurted her to know how far he have to go to heal them. Even after you pushed me away, my heart still wanted you and it still does. Wine confessed, and it brings a small smile to his face as internally he sighed in relief. As you know, finally, give me your permission. I promise to always stay by your side and fill this distance of our hearts. I promise, fine, I will draw you closer to me gradually by my efforts and sincerity. Are you sure? He is not the same cold and rude Jungkook we used to know. This one is different. Believe me now, he wants wine in his life. In fact, it was always like this. We just realized late. Theung sat and told everything what Jungkook said after hearing, which Mrs. Jones sighed in relief. Thank God, I thought I ruined my wine's life. Trust me, even I had a single idea that Jungkook will treat her like this after marriage, I would never let this marriage happen. Bless Lena, who told me everything about them. Aunt, the entire fault was not Jungkook's. You should have supported him, and his love not had forced him to marry someone else without his consent. I know it was not your intention, but it ruined three lives. Theung sat politely, to which Mrs. Jones nodded in sadness. He just wants to make her realize their mistake. You are right, Theung. It was our fault too by not prioritizing our son's happiness. I just wanted best for Vine because she was left with no one beside her. But in it, I forgot what my son wanted, or should I say, just ignored, even after knowing whom he wanted in his life. Ash, aunt. Theung wiped her tears, gently cupped her face. There is no point of regretting about your past mistakes. Jungkook and Vine are doing a fresh start. Let's support them. You already know we can never change our past, but at least we can take a lesson from it and make our future beautiful. Mrs. Jones nodded while sniffing and looked at Theung, eyes praising him. Why are not you my son? Let me just adopt you. Theung nervously laughed at this. What are you saying, aunt? You already have Jungkook. I don't want that cold iceberg. And I have no interest in being Jungkook's stepbrother. I'm okay with best friend title. Theung said loudly and ran out of the room. Jungkook was giving Vine medicines when she asked something Jungkook. He just hummed. What about tomorrow's plan? Tomorrow, nothing new, same schedule of attending meetings and another day of firing few more lazy employees. Jungkook sat with a serious face, which will never change, and the girl knows it. You forgot, for tomorrow, we decided to go with Bora and others for shopping. They're leaving for US day after tomorrow. Jungkook put the glass on bedside table and looked at Vine, thinking something. Oh yeah, actually I informed them about your ankle injury and they said not to worry. The three will do shopping by themselves. But I wanted to go. I promised to Bora that I will help her in shopping and spend the whole day with her. She must be feeling Wine was blabbering and not having any another option. Jungkook put his finger on her lips. Just sleep. He said in deep voice and she straight lay down on bed without saying anything further. Jungkook covered her with blanket while adjusting pillow under her head. He suddenly stopped and looked at her. Her breath became heavy as he bent down more to her level and straight looked into her eyes. Such a obedient wife. Now her eyes widened and met with his dark brown eyes. He removed some hairs falling on her face and the gentle touch made her feel loved. The moment was euphoric and it was making both of them crazy. Jungkook backed away and said, Let's just sleep. He lay down to another side, maintaining a proper distance, as he don't want his wife to feel uncomfortable. After a minute of silence, he again looked at her and said something which turned her face into a tomato. Your breathing is still abnormal, Mrs. Joan. Need an inhaler? Wine covered herself from blanket entirely and whined loudly from inside it, and her adorable gesture made Jungkook laugh. Next morning, Mrs. Joan was going towards Jungkook and Wine's room to give them breakfast. Surprisingly, Jungkook didn't came down to eat breakfast. So here is Mrs. Joan on her way to feed her grown-up kids. She slightly knocked on the door. Soon it got opened from other side as well. Dressed Jungkook standing in front of her. Good morning, mom. Good morning, Bunny. Jungkook blinked his eyes at his mom's sunny voice. Where are you going without eating breakfast? How many times I had to tell to not go office with empty stomach? Jungkook smiled with moist eyes and hugged his mom lightly. I missed you so much, mom. She caressed her head with a smile. I missed my bunny too. Now come and have your breakfast. Jungkook nodded, and when they both entered inside, Wine just awakened. Good morning, my child. Wine looked at them with sleepy eyes and smiled. Good morning, mom. But soon realization hits her. What time it is? Oh no, I forgot to set my alarm clock. I'm sorry. She panicked. Relax, Wine. No need to panic. Jungkook is right. You are injured, and in this condition you need complete bed rest. He will do his work by himself. Now, have you both breakfast? Oma, why did you bring? Because I wanted. Now, don't think much. Sit down, Jungkook. Mrs. Jones sat and put down the bed table. What happened? Start now. Why look at Jungkook, who seems to understand her thoughts? She wants to use washroom first. Jungkook stated her thoughts. Then, what are you looking at? Take her. Jungkook and Wine both look at Mrs. Jones in shock and embarrassment. Mom, you are getting nervous like you did never done this before. Then let me remind you, my dear son, I was the eyewitness when you lift up her in your arms in kitchen. Jungkook starts to scratch his neck. Mom, that's not the problem. If I am the reason, then don't mind my presence because I will not go. Mrs. Jones flashed a tired smile. Jungkook looked at Wine, who nodded her head in tinny as they didn't have any other choice. With one hand under her head and other under her legs, while her tightly hold his neck, Jungkook lifted up her in arms. Mrs. Jones squealed loudly, embarrassing both of them more. Feeling done, Jungkook starts to go in other direction when Mrs. Jones stopped them. Now what, Mom? Jungkook sounded irritated. You noisy kid, and let me take a picture. Mrs. Jones reasoned, pulling out a phone, don't know from where. Mom, that's so much now. What are you even trying to do? Her eyebrows raised. I am doing what I want to, and you have no choice but to accept my words. Now give me a perfect pose. Mrs. Jones adjusted her mobile camera on them. Come on, my child, show me your beautiful smile, and you too, Mr. Iceberg. Jungkook rolled his eyes and looked at the camera coldly. Wine in his arms, smiled awkwardly. She just wanted to use washroom, but look at her now, posing for a picture with messy hair and morning face, in the arms of her husband who had a stern face. Smile! With a slight flash, a picture of an awkward wife with her cold husband of an unexpected moment got captured as a beautiful memory. Nice! Mrs. Jones exclaimed loudly in utter happiness. Jungkook shook his head and looked at the girl in his arms. Their eyes met, let out a smile, and both chuckled lightly. And light flashed. This was the perfect one. Let me show this to your dad, Mrs. Jones stated and practically ran outside. Here, her eyes fall on the tie in his hand. She take it in her hand and look up at him, who was towering above her like a mountain. She can't even stand on her leg. How will she do it? But a smile appeared on her face, seeing Jungkook sitting down on his one knee beside the bed. She starts doing her everyday task. Then Wine's whole body froze when While getting up, Jungkook pecked her forehead. Thanks, now I should leave. And yeah, don't get up from bed. If you need anything or wants to go somewhere, call mom for help. Jungkook looked at her, who was looking at him like a adorable, confused puppy. To stop his smile from widening more, Jungkook cleared his throat. You are listening to what I am saying or not, Ryan? The girls came out from her daydreaming by hearing him. Yeah, okay. After done showering with the help of her mother-in-law, one was laying down on bed with the same book in her hand with an intention to finish it by today. Thankfully, no one disturbed her until it was lunchtime. And once again, Mrs. Jones did the job of delivering food in her room. She told her to enjoy the food and left the room. One was eating silently when something strikes her mind. She quickly looked around and grabs her phone, which was besides her only. However, she was not sure if she could call or not. What if he is in meeting? But she just wants to confirm if he ate his lunch or not. After thinking a lot, Wine finally tapped on the familiar phone number with a little plan in her mind. 1, 2, her mind counted tightly, clutching the phone placed on her ear. 3, she was all set to cut the call when a voice from other side said, "Hello." Her breath hissed and she was not in the condition to speak. "Hello," the deep voice once again echoed in her ear. She is not able to process anything, her mind was blank. It's like every single word got erased from her memory. I know, it's your wine. And now there is no chance left for her except to answer. The girl gathered her all courage, took some deep breaths, straightened her posture, and after doing all this, only a small whisper came out from her mouth. "Hello." She gulped when she heard his throaty chuckle. "Are there any goons behind you?" She looked around as her eyes frantically searched for someone else's presence in the room except herself. "I know, I have alone in the room." "Then why are you whispering?" Wine realized what she was doing and slapped her forehead for acting like a stupid. She giggled in embarrassment. "Why did you call?" Now here is the toughest question of her life. "I just wanted to ask, have you had your meal?" The nervousness was clear in her voice. "Had already? What about you?" "I am eating right now." Jungkook hummed in response. There was silence for the next few seconds when Jungkook spoke again. "Is your ankle still paining?" "No, it's better now." Wine answered slowly as her eyes fall on the head peeking inside. Their both eyes met. "You want something? I'm on my way. I will take..." Jungkook didn't complete his sentence when he heard him. "Jimin, am I disturbing you?" "Not at all. Jungkook, I will talk to you later." And she ended the call unthinkingly. "Jimina, what are you doing outside? Please come." Wine softly sighed. Jimin came inside with a nervous smile. "I hope I'm not being a disturbance." "Ah, no, of course not. By the way, what were you doing that you lost track of time?"